we serve. What an awesome God we serve. You know, I mean, God is just so good to us. He's better to us than what we are to ourselves. Hallelujah. I want to thank the Antioch Baptist Church for inviting me here today. 65 years. Can you imagine, like the sister said, that's older than I've been. But I praise God because the work is still going forward, and all the other churches that are here this evening. Amen. That is a word from the Lord. And I know these afternoon crowds, see. They don't want to be kept long, do they? I know you. Joshua chapter 9. When you find it, if you rest on your feet. And it came to pass, when all the kings who were on this side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland, and in all the coasts of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, heard about it, that they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel one accord. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily and went and pretended to be ambassadors. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves. And all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went up to Joshua to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, we have come from a far country. Now therefore, make a covenant with us. Then the men of Israel said to the Hittites, perhaps you dwell among us, so how can we make a covenant with you? But they said to Joshua, we are your servants. And Joshua said to them, who are you, and where do you come from? So they said to him, from a very far country your servants have come, because of the name of the Lord your God. For we have heard of his fame, and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Therefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, take provisions with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say to them, we are your servants. Now therefore make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot from our provision, from our houses on the day we departed to come to you. But now look, it is dry and moldy. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn. And these our garments and our sandals have become old because of the very long journey. Then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. So Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live, and the rulers of the congregation swore to them. And it happened at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors who dwelt near them. The word of God for the people of God. The title of this message says, sometimes. Sometimes. You know how it is sometimes. You know, sometimes they'll say sometimes we up and sometimes we down. You know, sometimes people are with us and sometimes people are against us. You know, occasionally that's what the word sometimes means, that once in a while. Not all the time, but just sometimes. And that's what this passage is speaking about. It's speaking about sometimes. You know, sometimes we have a situation here where the Israelites have just gotten over this great big battle where they have went out and taken Jericho and have taken Ai. It said that these kings came together in verse 1. And when these kings came together, they had decided that, well, we can't join them, so we might as well go up against them. And it says at the end of verse 1, it said that all these kings of all these lands had heard about it. What they had heard about was how God had been moving and using Israel as a mighty army. See, at this point, before Israel even went into the promised land, Israel had an army of over 600,000 men. Now, that's a mighty big army, y'all. No, we're not counting those people that are with the army. We're not talking about the women and the children and the men that are under the age of 20 and those over the age of 50. We're talking about the army of God. God had put together such a mighty army that as they were traveling through the land, through the wilderness, everybody was But you know what? They had a reason to be scared of them because you know what? Israel was the only army that was going to battle and wasn't losing any men. Now see, when you got a God on your side, when you go out to battle, you don't lose anybody. Victory, you know you bad. I don't care what you say, you know your God bad when you can go to battle and win every victory. And that's the type of God that we serve. We have the type of God that who's for us, he's not against us. He's on our side. See, sometimes what we have is that we have people in the church that won't study the Old Testament. Okay, because when you study the Old Testament, what you learn is that you got a God that's so powerful. You got a God that sits so high. You got a God that's so awesome. It don't matter what you come up against. Because you understand that because the God of the Old Testament is the same God that's on your side. Because he said that I am the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So see, he didn't change because we got to Matthew. He's still the same God. And so when you understand that that God that was causing Israel to go out as a military, now imagine that now. He brought Israel out of Egypt as slaves, didn't he? And now here they are, such a large military army that no matter where they go, the people around them are scared of them. Oh, wouldn't you like to be like that? That no matter where you go, the people are scared of you. Oh, they know that you coming with something with you. See, it ain't because of who you are, but it's because of who he is. When they see you coming, they say, oh, that's that mighty woman of God. That's that mighty man of God. Let me just get on out of their way. Don't need me messing with them. Okay? Because they were God. It's not that God so much with us, but we are with him. And so here we are. Israel's got this reputation. Okay, and because they got this reputation, they just took Jericho and they just took Ai. Now, Ai, they only lost because they had sin in the camp. That's right. That was all. They lost 38 men out of 600,000. That was it. But then after they got rid of the sin in the camp, they didn't lose another man. Now, can you imagine being the enemy? And you know that there's a military that's coming your way. And you have also heard that this military has been given your land. Now you either got a choice. You either figure out a way to defeat this military or you figure out a way to join them. And that's what the people of Gibeon did. The people of Gibeon said that, you know what, we can't beat them, so we might as well figure out how to join them. So sometimes you got an enemy that's going to be so large that you see them. Sometimes they're going to join forces to come up against you, and sometimes they're going to come up against you as individuals. Sometimes you need to know that the enemy, even though he comes to join you, is still the enemy. Just because he comes to join you does not make him your friend. And so Israel had to realize, Joshua had to realize that at this point, sometimes the enemy come up against you and you don't even know who they are. Because it says that the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and to Ai. And it said that they took and worked craftily. And they went and pretended to be ambassadors. Ain't that like the devil? The devil always pretended. The word of God says he paraded himself as an angel of light. He's not an angel of light, but he parades himself like an angel of light. So they sat down and they came up with a plan. Okay, we'll take and get some old sacks, we'll get some donkeys, we'll get some old wine skins, torn and mended. Now, you know, they had to put some thought into this thing, didn't they? We got to get some old and patched sandals. Now, when are you going to find some old and patched sandals? They had to get some old garments to put on. And they had to get some old, dry, and moldy bread. Now, who keeps old and dry, moldy bread? Nobody, but they had to put some effort into this plan because they understood one thing, that if we don't join them, we're going to get killed. And in order to preserve our lives, then we don't want to get killed. And so they said they went to Joshua. And when they went to Joshua to Gilgal, Joshua said, they told Joshua, we came from a far country. Now therefore make a covenant with us. Now that's some deceit, isn't it? But that's the way the enemy operates. The enemy will go through any length can in order to deceive us as believers. And it says that the men of Israel said to the Hittites, now that's very important, because remember when I read that list in verse 1, the Hittites were numbered amongst them. So that means that these are part of the Hittite people, and these people have decided that no, we ain't going to fight them because we can't beat them. Yeah. So we're going to take and pull out of this, and we're going to go and try to join them. Yeah. But then, you know, and they said, perhaps, Joshua said, perhaps you dwell amongst us. So how can we make a covenant with you? Sometimes your enemy going to come up against you and you ain't going to recognize him. Yeah. You'll be standing right there in your face talking with you, and you're not going to even recognize him. They're going to sound good, they're going to look good, they're going to tell you what you want to hear. Because they said to Joshua, we're your servants. Now listen to what they said now. Joshua asked them a question. Joshua said, who are you? In verse 8. And where do you come from? You know the enemy ain't of a light. You can't tell the truth. But you hear how they avoid answering the question. Joshua said, who are you? That's a point blank question, isn't it? He said, and where do you come from? But you know what? The enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. The enemy has been around much longer than what we have. And the enemy has a game plan, and he knows exactly how to come at you and what words to use. So many people get deceived because the enemy come at them and but they can't tell the truth, so what they do is they tell Joshua and the Israelites what they want to hear. Okay? They tell Joshua and the Israelites, we from a, now you said that before, you from a very far country. Tell us the name of the country. But you listen that Joshua and Israel not listening for a name because they puffing them up. They said, we come from a far country, your servants have come. Your servants. Are they these servants? Or are these the enemy? These the enemy, aren't they? These are not servants. They say your servants come from a very far country because the name of the Lord your God, for we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt. The enemy always comes speaking what we want to hear. Amen. Whatever you want to hear is what he'll say to you. We tell young women that all the time. It's that ain't no new tricks around. Ain't nothing new that the enemy can say. He's going to say the same thing. The only thing that has changed is the names. That's all. But the enemy has remained the same. And so the enemy comes and he tells them what they want to hear. We heard about your fame. Now remember now, they had just defeated Jericho and they had just defeated Ai. They probably all puffed up now. And so they hear that, okay, now our fame is getting around all around. It done got so far, this is a far country. You notice that the enemy did not tell them that I heard that y'all just defeated Jericho and Ai. Why? Because Jericho and Ai is 3 days away. Now, you heard about that battle, that means you close to what you say. Sometimes we got to listen to what the enemy says. Okay? We can't tell the truth. But they don't push them any further. They just take what they say. We from a far country. And so they're saying, we heard about how you killed the 2 kings of the Amorites that was beyond the Jordan. And Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who was an Ashtaroth. Now those battles happened before Moses even spent the spies out. That was a battle that happened way long ago, before they even went to the wilderness. Now how long did they stay in the wilderness? 40 years. They talk about something that happened over 40 years ago. The enemy has come and pumped them up with something that happened over 40 years ago. That's like the enemy coming and saying, you know what, I remember when you were 12 years old, how God did this to you. Well, the question ought to be, has not God done anything for you lately? Amen. Or you still got to go back to when you were 12 years old to find something that God's done for you. On a regular basis, we ought to have some fresh testimony. We ought to have something new going on in our lives. It don't be a matter what is God doing for me right now. Okay, because right now God ought to be doing something new. So be careful when people always want to go back 30 years to find out what to find something that God did. You know, what has God done for you lately? Is that what the song says? What has say, no, I think he's a fresh God. I think that's something that you don't understand. But I can say thank you, Lord. I don't have to go back that far. And so here it is, Joshua and the Israelites standing here talking to the enemy, and they don't even know it. How many times are we talking to the devil and don't even know it? The devil's standing right there in front of us, and we don't even know he's standing there in front of us. That's a shame, but you know it happens all the time, don't it? It happens all the time that we're talking with the enemy. Oh, the enemy look good, don't they? Smell good. Now, if you're a man, you smell good. But you know what? Standing there talking with the enemy. Joshua and the Israelites don't even realize that they're talking with the enemy. You know, so the conversation keeps going. I mean, you can hear them convincing Joshua and the Israelites that they came from a far-off country. You know, when we left, the bread was hot. See how the devil lied? When we left, the bread was hot. When we left, our sandals were brand new. When we left, for the provisions, everything that we had was okay. But now look at the bread moldy and old. Now ask yourself, would this convince you? Or would you ask more questions? Because on a regular basis, the enemy feeds us lies. And do we believe them? Or do we think to inquire further? Because when we get to the end of the story, we realize what their mistake was. And in verse 14, it says that the men of Israel took some of their provisions. Well, I won't ask the question, what provisions? The bread's moldy. The sandals are worn out. They're moldy. What provision did they take from them? It says that they made the mistake because they did not ask counsel from God. They did not ask counsel from God. A lot of times we make our mistake because we don't ask God. It's just that simple. Amen. We get into trouble because we don't ask God. And he's right there for the asking, isn't he? All we got to do is say, God, this story ain't sounding right to me. You know, it ain't sounding right to me at all. You know, I was in the library the other day. I was telling some friends that I was in the library the other day. Sitting down, minding my business. I go to the library 3-4 times a week. Okay, sit there and do my work. And I was sitting there working like I normally am, and here come a young man walk up. And he says, he walked up, he walked by, and then he backed up. I know something wrong with that. And so he stops and he says, you sure is pretty. I said, thank you. And he said, no, I mean it. And I said, thank you. And he said, you married? I said, no. And he said, well, can I take you to dinner? And I said, you realize I'm 60 years old? I said, how old are you? He said, I'm 38. And I said, son, I'm too old for you. And he said, he thought about it. He actually put his finger up to his forehead. He was actually giving thought to this thing, like, okay, 38 and 60. You know, like, I can make this work. And what I was thinking to myself is that, no, you're looking for a bed to lay in, and a car to drive, and somebody to take care of you. That's what I'm thinking. Okay? So I'm not flattered by your words. I'll say thank you. Because the word says to agree with your adversary while you're on the way with him. So you agree with him. Thank you for the compliment. But no, you can't get into that car if I'm making payments on it. You can't get into that house that I'm still making payments on. You're going to have to come with something. Because after all, I serve a mighty good God. And so we have to listen sometimes to the enemy. Because when we listen to the enemy and we take counsel from God, God will never allow us to travel on the wrong road. He can't let you travel on the wrong road. It's not his nature. He said, I'm a good father. I take care of my children. See, we can always count on God taking care of us. We can always count on God delivering us. So a lot of times relationships and other situations because we refuse to ask God. Refuse to ask God. You know, my friends will tell you, man come, I ask God, that my husband? You say no. Well, you don't need me going out with you. You know, just wasting your time. You know, and you might say, well, you need to go out and get a free meal. But I'm eating anyway. And so we have got to begin to use wisdom. We've got to begin to ask God, God, is this you or is this the enemy? Because the enemy comes so close to looking like God that you're going to need God's help in order to identify it. If you don't ask God and we get into situations or we get into relationships, then whose fault is it? Now, everyone in here know how long it takes to get out of a bad relationship. It takes a long time, don't it? But if we had asked God from the beginning, we wouldn't have gotten to it. We have got to begin to ask God. And that's what happened with the Israelites. Now, they don't walk with God for over 40 years, haven't they? They've been walking with Him. They don't see God take them through the wilderness. But first they saw God keep them while they were in Egypt. And then they saw God bring them out of Egypt with miracles, miracle after miracle. And then they saw God take them through the Red Sea. And then they saw God take and bring them and give them the law and give them everything else they need. And they saw God feed them. They saw God give them water out of the rock. What else you need? And they saw God continuing to watch over them, give them a cloud by day and fire by night. Keep the sun off of them in the daytime and warm them up in the evening time at night. You know, they saw God take them through the wilderness for 40 years. The book of Psalms says that now their sandals didn't even wear out. Can you imagine walking for 40 years and ain't no Walmart to go buy no shoes at? You got to wear the shoes of somebody else's shoes that done died. You know, that says that their clothes did not wear out and their sandals did not wear out. Now give us some shoes that last 40 years and we'll be okay. And then He keeps on and He brings them into the promised land. And when He brings them into the promised land, the first obstacle they got is Jericho. But what does He do? He tells them all you got to do is walk around the wall. That's all you got to do. Walk around the wall. You don't even have to fight. All you got to do is walk around the wall, be quiet, and when I say shout, all you got to do is shout. Archaeologists say that when Israel shouted, the walls did not crumble down. Okay, they did not crumble down. The archaeologists who dig, you know archaeologists do. What they found was that the walls had been pushed down below ground level. Now that's a mighty God we serve. Jericho's walls have been pushed down. So that's why the word says that Israel could go straight in. Now if they crumble down, you're going to have to walk over some stones. Okay? But the walls were pushed down. And not only that, He delivered them through eye and everything else. And now they're at this point, and that's the issue. See, we can win some battles. We can come through some things. And we got to be careful that when we come through these things that we don't get puffed up. That we don't begin to think that it's because of our goodness. That we don't begin to think that this is something that God's going to do all the time. No, we've got to remain humble. And so that when the enemy comes, you won't find any pride in us. And that's what was happening with Israel. When the enemy had come, they began to get puffed up. We don't want all these battles. Can you imagine going to war after war after war and not losing men? What a mighty God that is. In the same way, that's who you are as believers in Christ. You are warriors. Sometimes we don't know who we are. Sometimes we don't know what our God can do. Sometimes we don't know that God is for us and not against us. Sometimes we don't know that all power is on our side. Sometimes we don't know, but we've got to begin to know. You know, and so sometimes when them times come along when you don't understand who it is that you're with, just go back into this Old Testament. Dig in this Old Testament. And see the God that you're with. We have a tendency to jump to the New Testament. Okay, up in the New Testament, we got grace and mercy operating.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of scared of the Old Testament because there's some killing going on. God wasn't putting up with anything. But in the New Testament, we like it because that's that grace and mercy. But see, we got to go back to the Old Testament and find out this God that we with. Okay, because when you know the God that you with, you can say whatever you want to say. There ain't no devil in hell can come up against you. Because you know the God that you with. And so get to know that God. You know, don't just say, well, that's the God of the Old Testament, because it's not the God of the Old Testament. It's the God that's right there and right now today. You know? And so it says that at the end they made peace with him, didn't they? And he let them live. But it happened that at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbors who dwelt near them. How many times has the enemy deceived us and we realize later we've been deceived?
Amen.
Oh, I got one amen. It's not till after we've been deceived that we realize that it was the devil. I have been bamboozled. And then we get mad. And then we want to get even. No, the battle is not yours. It's not yours. So don't even get mad. Just learn from it. You know what? You got me that time, but you won't get me again. You can't get me that way that time, but you ain't, next time you come that way, I'm wiser now. We have got to understand that he who is with us is greater than he who is in the world. And that no matter what, he is for us, not against us. So be reminded that we have a responsibility to go to God for counsel. On big things and on small things. People say, oh, don't ask God for a parking space. Why not? Why not? Oh, I don't have to ask God, do I want to get, can I buy that dress? Why not ask God? Ask God on the big things and on the small things. Always know that he is there to give you counsel. See, he never wants us to fail. He never wants the enemy to defeat us. Because, see, God has never lost the battle. He's only victorious. And you know the one you with is only victorious for against you. Right. Can't you stand up and stand tall? You know who's with you. All the way. But know that sometimes not sometimes, all the time you got to stay with God. All the time you got to stay with God. Amen.